How's it hanging, everyone? It's me, it's Count, here with a brand new Pokemon Go discussion video. I want to talk about Gibble. I really feel like this Pokemon deserves a lot more respect that Niantic is giving it, and I really think Niantic is missing out on a lot of potential revenue by not properly executing this Pokemon. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So a couple of weeks back, Niantic released the shiny form of Gibble. It was kind of a ninja release. They didn't make a big announcement for it, or it wasn't really even tied to an event. And a lot of people thought this was some sort of bug, much like what happened with Abra during Pokemon Go Fest. But it turns out this was official. Niantic did intend for this Pokemon shiny form to be released, and a lot of players were really unhappy. But before we dive into this topic, real quick, if it's your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as well as that little bell as well, so you get notified whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel possible. Every little bit helps, and I did set up a lot of nice little perks, so if you want to check that out, there's a link to it in the description below. Alright, so with that all out of the way, let's talk about Gibble. I'm really disappointed, along with a lot of other players, that we're possibly not going to be getting a Gibble community day. This is something that I think a lot of players were looking forward to, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Gibble is one of those Pokemon that is extremely difficult in order to get, let alone getting a perfect IV Gibble. Just getting a Gibble is difficult enough, and I feel like with the release of its shiny form without any form of announcement or an event tied to it, it just really made the community kind of sour, because people were really looking forward to that community day, and this seemed to have indicated that there wasn't going to be a Gibble community day. Now, I'm not sure what plans Niantic has for this Pokemon in the coming months, in the coming years, but Gibble is one of those Pokemon that a lot of players really want, and I think a community day would have been the perfect way for a lot of people to get this Pokemon. And I look back to Dratini, because Dratini was also a really hard Pokemon to get. You just didn't really see them in the wild as much as you wouldn't have seen a Gibble now. But once the community day for Dratini came out, suddenly Dratini became widely available for a much broader set of players. And I was really hoping for the same with Gibble. Like, keeping it rare was fine. A lot of people still really want their Gibbles, and making it extremely difficult to get makes those people who do have a Gibble have something really special. I can totally understand that. But at the same time, this Pokemon is something that a lot of players are seeking for competitive play, and having it less available gives certain people a competitive edge. So yeah, if a Gibble community day doesn't end up happening, and if the shiny form is going to stay, then Niantic really needs to consider a lot of different options on what they could do with Gibble. So over the weekend, ever since we got that big wave of new Anuva Pokemon, I was actually doing a whole bunch of raiding, but it wasn't raiding Heatran, it was actually raiding Timber. And the reason for that is because, of course, Timber is a raid exclusive Pokemon, much like Shinx and Clink. Of course, you could pick it up in 10km eggs, but the chances of that are pretty slim, considering they love to flood 10km eggs with a lot of useless Pokemon like Mawile and Absol, and now with Sock and Throw. But in any case, Timber is a raid exclusive Pokemon, so I really wanted that Hundo Timber. So I've been raiding a whole bunch of them and just eating through all of my raid passes. And the reason why I bring this up is because I realized with Timber, having it be a raid exclusive Pokemon meant that I was completely motivated to raid as many Timber as I can. And how much more motivation would I have if Gibble was also in raids? This inevitably led me to the thought, why does Niantic not put Gibble in raids? Like, honestly, I think it would be a solid 2 or 3 tier raid. I think a lot of people would like to have these Gibbles, and having them accessible through a raid is something that I am on board with. with. And of course, Niantic has already made it clear that you could have different varieties of rarity when it comes to what tier 3 raid or what tier 2 raid is going to show up. And we saw that with Chansey. Whenever Chansey is in the raid rotation, it's far and few between whenever you come across a Chansey raid. But coming across those raids is really exciting because this is your chance at getting a really high IV Chansey, and it's kind of like finding a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, you just don't know when you're gonna come across this raid, but when you do, you definitely have to jump on it. I don't see why they can't do something like that for Gibble. Like, if you flood the market with a whole bunch of different kinds of raids and very occasionally have a Gibble raid, I think that would be pretty nice. Not only would Niantic make a killer amount of money, but people would have access to this Pokemon. So for PvP battlers who really want their Gibbles, like, or even now with Heatran raids, Gibbles are really nice to have, especially if you want that extra DPS. Having these Pokemon accessible makes the game a lot more fun, and having them behind a paywall is totally fine. People will be more than willing to spend money on raid passes if it means they could get a Gibble. Now, I know for a while now I've been talking about how Niantic has been walking this fine line when it comes to monetization, that if they cross this line, they could become a greedy company, kind of like EA and Activision is right now. But I honestly think this is a different situation because, of course, raid passes can still be obtained free to play. You could just stock up on those Pokecoins and buy a whole bunch of raid passes or Ultra Boxes or what have you. So it's not necessarily something that is completely pay to win. Of course, people who do spend money in the game will have a strong advantage because they'll have more raid passes than everyone else. But at the same time, if you are free to play, you are not going to find this Pokemon inaccessible. As of right now, it is the luckiest of luckies who are encountering Gibbles in the wild, and let alone if you want a high IV one, you have to just hatch a ridiculous number of 10-kilometer eggs. So the system right now is completely broken for people who really want this Pokemon. And for crying out loud, a lot of people that I talk to, they don't even want a really nice Garchomp, they just want the Pokedex entry. Like, it really bothers them that we're already in Gen 5, but they can't even complete their Gen 4 Pokedexes. So yeah, Niantic, if you happen to be watching this, you're missing out on a whole bunch of potential money by not including Gibble in your raids. Of course, maybe you guys have a big plan for Gibble in the coming days or in the coming months, and maybe we will be seeing that Gibble Community Day, but honestly, we just need a little bit more communication, especially around specific Pokemon that are highly sought after. If you have big plans for Gibble, throwing out little hints here and there on your Twitter is always going to be something that gets players interested rather than sitting there and complaining. Because as of right now, ever since that shiny form was secretly released, a lot of people have been really unhappy and really deflated when it comes to Gibble, and I really think you guys are in a prime opportunity to correct that. Now, let's say they do put Gibble in raids. What would the game look like? Well, I think a lot of players who have Gibbles, who have really nice Gibbles, they might be unhappy that their Gibbles are no longer that rare, they're no longer that special, but let's be real here. How special do Pokemon need to be? Like, if you think about what this game is, Pokemon get outclassed and they get circulated out pretty frequently. Like, for example, Dragonites were some of the most highly sought after Pokemon for the longest time, but now they're in tier 4 raids, and getting a Dratini is something that some players even skip out on. Like, they just don't care to get Dratinis because you can't mass evolve them as much as other Pokemon. So it really is something that you have to consider, that over time even Gibble may become outdated at one point. And maybe Niantic is trying to prevent that as long as they can. Maybe they're trying to delay that sort of irrelevance for Gibble. And I can understand that, but at the same time, when you make it so inaccessible for players, well, they just don't end up caring about that Pokemon in the first place. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've come across a Heatran raid where someone will have a Garchomp, and yeah, there's gonna be players here and there that are gonna kind of envy that player, but at the same time, people have their Groudons, they have their Rhyperiors, they don't necessarily need a Garchomp, and of course, in some situations, these other Pokemon are a lot better, so people don't care about Garchomp as much as I think Niantic believes they do. So there you have it, everyone. These are my thoughts regarding Gibble. I really think Niantic is missing out on a golden opportunity with this Pokemon. I really hope they do something like putting it it in raids. I think that would benefit the game and the player base as much as it possibly could. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts as well. Are you in agreement? Do you disagree with me? Do you really want to keep Gibble rare? I would love to know your thoughts. Of course, that counter argument always comes up whenever I bring this up. Some people do like the rarity of Gibble. They like the fact that it's one of those Pokemon that barely anybody is going to have. But in any case, I would love to know your thoughts why. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I am Count Jinsla, and I'll catch you all later. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Before I end this video, I want to talk about how you can support this channel financially. If you really enjoy my content and you want to chip in, well, definitely check out the link in the description below. It will take you to my Patreon page, and that is how you can support this channel. And on top of all of that, I left a lot of nice, cool perks for you. If you really want to support my channel, then you will not go empty-handed. I will continue to improve the quality of my videos, but at the same time, I will add you to my friends list. I will give you a shout out in my videos. Speaking of a shout out, check out these patrons down below. They are the ones supporting my channel, and so can you. So definitely go and check it out. And for everyone who supports my channel, thank you. So there you have it, everyone. That's going to be it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button as well. I am Count Jinsla, and I'll catch you all later.